next in line. All right.
My meeting's
It's
going to be
okay.
This is your first one? Oh, welcome.
Okay, ready to go? All right. Good evening and welcome to the September 6, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to start off with a call to order and the roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman McGee, absent. Vice Chairman Hauser,
Present.
Secretary Sage,
Here.
Mayor Bixson,
Here.
Commissioner Gasson,
Here.
Commissioner King,
Here.
Commissioner Lord,
Here.
Commissioner Kensick.
Here.
And Commissioner Stone.
Okay, looks like we have a quorum. So I'd ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin with the formal program this evening, I would like to welcome a new Planning Commission member, Richard Kensick, who is, this will be his first meeting. I have known Richard for quite some time now, and he is very knowledgeable, very informed, and very passionate about the city of Rochester. And I think he's going to be a fantastic contribution to an already great commission. And any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us, Mr. Banda, Mr. Maher. We'd be more than happy to help you out, but I think we're all very happy to have you here, and I think this is just going to make the Planning Commission even better than what it was, if that's even possible. So you're welcome. Okay. So item agenda number 3, let's go to public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? Anyone on the Zoom hearings? Doesn't look like it. Okay.
I see no one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what we'll do now is go to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes for a consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Okay, any support?
Support.
Okay, Commissioner Sage. Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Vice Chairman Hauser,
Yes.
Secretary Sage,
Yes.
Mayor Bixson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gasson,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Kensick,
Yes.
and Commissioner Stone is absent.
Okay. Next, item number 5, this is the public hearing for the Rochester Corner Bar, formerly known as Penny Black, and they are here to request expansion of an outdoor cafe to the south, 1 to 2 feet beyond the existing limits. Do I open up the public hearing? Is that how that would?
Yeah, so first you go to video.
Vidya. Okay, Vidya, it's all yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. You're all familiar with this project. This is the former Penny Black restaurant, now to be known as Rochester Corner Bar. The applicant appeared before you on August 1st, too. Their proposal is to make extensive interior renovations to the restaurant and also make certain facade modifications and changes to the outdoor dining area. The site is located in the central business district, and restaurants are a principal permitted use in this district. The outdoor dining is a special exception use, but they already have that approval. This change does not alter the previously granted special exception approval. No changes are proposed to the access to the site. At the last meeting, there was some concern if the addition of a 1 foot 6 inch, which is an 18-inch wide landscape bed along the site's West 4th Street frontage would interfere with the sidewalk. The applicant has shown a clearance of 6 feet 4 inches till the light pole, and wherever the light pole is not there, the distance is greater, and it is more than adequate for pedestrian access, which is typically 5 feet. Based on the parking requirements in the zoning ordinance for interior seating capacity and outdoor seating capacity, the site requires a total of 49 parking spaces. They were grandfathered in for a total of 46 parking spaces based upon a previous study done for the site. At this time, based on increasing the seating of the outdoor dining area. They need 3 additional spaces. And Mr. Bonislawski, who represents the owner, had previously stated that they are willing to pay for the 3 additional parking spaces. Now, the facade changes are the most significant part of this proposal. The applicant is essentially proposing removal of the outdoor brick piers and its replacement with steel poles that will connect the existing fence sections, removal of the outdoor bar blocks that are there in the back and converting it to a more barrier-free accessible area, removing the existing shutters on the building, changing the awnings, adding accent around the entry door and planters. Essentially, the architecture is being made to bring out the original beauty of the building, which over a period of time had gotten covered up with various additions to the exterior facade. The key goal, however, the applicant had was to make this outdoor dining area fully barrier-free accessible, which is now possible. With regard to lighting, there are 3 downlights that are going to be on the underside of this canopy and likely not visible. The site also has frontage and is part of the downtown, so there are existing Acorn-style light fixtures that will provide adequate illumination. The outdoor patio area will have market or string lights, which generally do not cast illumination beyond a limited area. It is more of decorative lighting. With regard to landscaping, which was a key point of discussion, the plan proposes installation of yews in 18-inch white planter bed. We had concerns whether the yews would be salt tolerant in winter when the sidewalks are salted. And the applicant had indicated that they have had good luck with the species that they installed there, and it's pretty salt resistant. The intent behind creating this landscape bed also is to prevent people from trying to climb over the fence into or out of the outdoor dining area, and that they would actually have to go into the dining area the proper way. This addition within the public right-of-way will require approval from the City Council. No new signage is being proposed as part of this application. Should the applicant choose to add any signage, it will require administrative approval. And finally, the concern was regarding noise. The police chief had indicated that in the years past, there have been some noise complaints regarding the noise generated from the outdoor speakers on the site. The applicant had responded that they will comply with the city's noise ordinance. However, our recommendation is that they go a bit beyond that by providing information regarding the timing of use of the outdoor speakers, when will they be turned off, and what is the decibel levels at which they will be set. That makes the job of code enforcement that much easier if they have set limits and they know the limits within which they have to operate. Based upon our review at this time, it is our recommendation that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the facade modifications to Rochester Corner Bar at 124 West 4th Street, subject to 4 conditions, which would be payment for 3 parking spaces in an amount already established by City Council, City Council's approval of the 18-inch planter bed on West 4th Street right-of-way along the restaurant's frontage, submission of any signage for administrative approval, and finally submitting for the files additional information regarding speaker usage and decibel levels in the outdoor dining area. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions? I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Sarah.
Commissioner King?
I have a couple questions. Did you say, Vidya, something about the ADA compliance?
Yes, Commissioner King, right now, I do not believe the existing outdoor bar area is fully ADA accessible. The proposed changes that they are making over here by removing the brick piers and creating additional distance is actually making this outdoor bar seating area handicap accessible.
Okay. And then, as I read correctly, the plantings in the front that extend into the right-of-way, those are still going to have to be approved by City Council?
Yes, because the right-of-way is owned by the city, so the City Council has the authority to approve the placement of those plantings.
Okay. And then my last question is around the outdoor speakers and noise. The noise complaints that they've received today in the past, was was Penny Black not complying with current noise ordinances? or are the noise ordinances too late into the evening?
I can help, Mr. Chair. I can help Vidya if you like. So
Okay.
it's been
Yes, please.
really before Chris owned the restaurant, number one. Number two, it was too late into the evening. A couple times it was decibel level, just ask them to turn it down. So, I mean, it started off the first couple of years. We literally, if you hit 3, we'd pull your permit, and they'd hit 2.5. And then we would turn up the plate just a little bit, and then Jeffrey, the owner and stuff, and we worked with them. So it's not been a consistent problem. You can hear it sometimes, but you can hear the marching band. We both hear it, I think, in our neighborhood when the high school's playing their band. So it was mostly a little bit late at night. And that was 2 years ago was the last complaint we had.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Gasson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the planner, the notes indicate dining area is illuminated by decorative market lighting. Is that current?
Yes.
And was that previously approved?
Yes.
Yes, I believe many of the restaurants that previously the Planning Commission has reviewed, the market lights or string lights are something that is added as an accent. The illumination level coming from those market lights is so low that it really does not register on a photometric plan.
So it doesn't require approval to have type lights?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you. One other question. On the reference to the bushes being a deterrent for climbing over the fence, is that really what happens?
I guess if somebody has had one too many at the bar, it might not be a deterrent, but it is hoped that people would generally walk past it proper way. But I'm guessing Mr. Bonislavsky can address that better because they said that was the intent behind adding. Not only does it provide some visual relief from the fence base itself, because there is some greenery to be seen. Maybe people won't try to step onto slightly coarse or a pointy bush like a yew.
Okay. Just seems ironic, we're going to use landscape as a security measure to guard against a fence. Just seems odd. So I'd love to hear the explanation on that.
It is ironical.
The other thing was the ADA accessibility. I know Commissioner King asked about it. Maybe the applicant can explain that, yes, the bar now is ADA compliant in its new configuration. If you could address that when you're kind of talking on the project, that'd be great.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Lord.
Just one, just so I'm clear, and I apologize if I missed this, but regarding the fence and this kind of hedgerow that's being put in, is the fence going back in the same location where it is right now? No. It's not. So the fence is coming out into the right-of-way?
No, to the property line.
To the property,
At
which
the
is not
property
now?
line.
Okay, okay.
So right now, the brick piers over here, Commissioner Lord, if I let me zoom in a little bit, these are the brick piers that are shown. The brick piers are located within the outdoor dining area, and this is the edge. So the fence is going right on their property line. It's not encroaching into the right-of-way.
Okay, so but the pavers are all coming out, is that right?
Yes, this area that you see is within the public right-of-way.
Right.
And it is allowed as long as it does not impede pedestrian circulation, just like it's on Main Street. This is similar to Main Street because it is also part of the central business district. We had asked the applicant to show the sidewalk clearance, and they do have 6 feet 4 inches of clearance. So if somebody's in a stroller or walking by, they can still comfortably pass through this area.
Okay, so minor detail, but the pavers that exist there now, is there gonna be a little strip of pavers that remain between the hedgerow and the concrete sidewalk that's there now?
Roland, you can address that.
Minor detail, I'm
Yes.
just curious.
Yes, because I think what you see in the darker kind of dotted gray is the planter bed and paver edges over. So yes, the planter bed will be framed by a tiny strip of pavers, which will then go to the front of the main entrance.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners? No? Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself, and you heard from the planner.
Good evening, Roman Bonislavsky from Brown and Roman. As always, a pleasure being in front of you. Mr. Gasson, I'll start with your point. that statement with regard to the landscaping has, from day one, been more about providing a barrier because of the fear people had of someone coming up against the outside of that fence and passing drinks through the fence. And our intention with that greenery there, along with the creation of a drink rail at the top of the existing ornamental metal fencing, that we've gone through a lot of trouble of surveying each piece and then aligning them all together instead of the kind of haphazard way in which you'll see some ornamental pieces, some utilitarian pieces, and making it work with the stanchions supporting the proposed canopy. At the drink ledge back, there's a solid backer being put on, so it will not be possible for someone to reach through the fencing to grab a drink. And in the same regard, provide that additional 18 inches of separation to where it's very obvious if someone is doing something nefarious at that fence. So that's my clarification, because I suppose unless you're really blasted, it will also help deter someone trying to climb a fence from the exterior. But I recall my direction as to the response there was to be specifically to provide that additional distance barrier. That was actually, aside from the issues that were raised with us during our most preliminary discussions, which were about the aesthetics of the space, the second primary concern that was brought up was one of the police's opinion of how easy it is to pass a drink through the railing and such. And so that's truly the reason for that 18-inch barrier. And with regards to Mr. Lord's question, there is approximately an 8-inch band of brick pavers that will remain within that right-of-way area. Now, let me circle back to, because I just wanted to get that out of the way. Oh, with regards to the barrier-free access, we found that there were two problems with that area. Number one, if you recall, when the brick pavers were, when the brick piers were in place, it left a very narrow passageway along the entire front of the bar. And my partner, who has been diagnosed with MS for 10 years and is in a wheelchair, we couldn't even get him in and through that area to look at it when we came out to field survey the restaurant originally. We are making efforts to provide a drop-up, flip-up, barrier-free bar component at the westernmost end of the bar. But the biggest concern was just to provide accessibility up and along that entire pathway of the bar, because the piers projected into that clear space, and when the stools were at the bar, there was truly pinch points along that entire passageway. As always, Vidya did an excellent job of describing and maybe incorporating some of my comments from previously, because I think I spoke rather strongly about the aesthetic of the building and how much we love that old post office, and we believe that by stripping away the components that were bad, by getting rid of that big bulky back bar on the outside of that bar area, by providing a new canopy that will no longer intersect the windows and really disassociate you from the interior activities going on in that bar, and even by not disregarding the beautiful architectural transoms that are at the entry doors, and creating a canopy, an entry canopy system, which it too will not have any stanchions that extend beyond the property line, that we're coming back to enhancing the original beauty of the building and taking away those small items of obstruction and in what we felt was maybe a little bit of clumsiness in how they were installed, in order to just clean up, enhance the beauty of the place with the U's. And if this board would recall, our owner is even willing to sign off on the fact that any U's that die due to having difficulties with the salt that's used on the sidewalks will be replaced. Our curb appeal is very important to the success of the restaurant, and the last thing we want to see is something we see all too often on all projects, and that's dead landscaping in front of the building. There are market lights that were there when we surveyed the building originally, and we're just improving on them, doing the actual drop, the actual commercial. Here's a good one for you. Got to find them that are UL listed, because it's a commercial project, and you'll find that it's a much better character of market string light that's available for that. We are proposing that along the side of the building. And I believe the best thing about those piers before were the plants that they put up on top of that. But we're countering that with the beautiful greenery along the front. There was one other item that previously Vidya had brought up, and that was to provide a cut sheet for the planters that we were using, and we did. I hope everyone on the board has that, and if not, I brought a copy with me. They're simple rectangular black metal planter boxes that will flank the entry doors up above. And Chris is here also. Chris has been policing the property as he should. As we know, we've cleaned up the back of it already. He's out at the dumpster at all times, and I think this has set a new standard for him that he's going to maintain throughout the course of the operation. And this is actually the small part of what's coming, because the interior is going to be completely redone, and the most exciting part for me is to have you eventually go in and experience how the interior will change. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Chris is here to speak to any item that might come up.
Sir, I've got just a quick question here, and I'm looking at the drawings, and I'm sorry if I had missed this earlier, but there's an existing bar on the corner to the left of the entrance when you go in. Is that going to be removed and replaced?
The bar is remaining.
Okay.
What we're doing is the existing back bar component that was built there with bad cabinetry that goes up way too high and messes with the windows and everything else. That's being brought down because the intent is not to have a back bar on the outside of the building that is showing off liquor and everything else. The intention of that bar is a social device out there, and it's much nicer for us to maintain a low-slung back bar on the entire project.
Okay, I was a little confused when you said you were going to take down the bar. Okay, I don't know anything. Commissioners,
I have a question.
okay.
So just to clarify on the drawing, so the fence goes to the edge of the property line, correct?
On
And
the
then
property line, but to the end, correct.
correct. And then, so we're not using planter boxes or anything to put in that hedge?
No, we're opening up, we're removing the pavers and
Okay.
providing a planting bed within the sidewalk, within the right-of-way,
That's all I needed clarification on. Thank you.
with irrigation, by the way.
Commissioner Gasson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. On the plan, it doesn't indicate that barrier-free bar element you just spoke of, and I'd like to see that
I'll
on the
make sure he
final
adds
plan.
that to the plan.
And if I understood right, the west would be either part of the back bar, or is it part of the bar where
No,
the
at the
stools are shown?
westernmost end.
Gotcha.
At the westernmost end of the bar.
So part of the congregational
And
part?
it's really just our
Okay.
typical flip-up ADA component that we
Okay,
use.
as long as it's accommodations, what I'm kind of
Agreed.
getting at it. And maybe the biggest thing about this whole project for me is what I've seen over the years, not about the project, but about what happens there at previous activities. There's a lot of people, it's a fun place to be, I imagine, but people walk out from in between cars right into the traffic and really create a unsafe situation sometimes. And that might be unavoidable, but what I'm wondering, new ownership and new operation and new presence, what's the idea from this project to deter that kind of thing? If there is anything, there needs to be something, and we're growing the occupancy to a use that's already creating, in my opinion, a dangerous situation occasionally.
Well, Dave, the reality is, we could take every effort that we can within our domain, within the operation that the owner has control over. But when you look at any city, and my office happens to be in Birmingham, and we've done 20 restaurants in Birmingham, and they allow not only the sidewalk patios and cafes, but also the street cafes that they, put out on decks. there's nothing operationally that this owner can do to prevent someone from slipping out from between cars, and that occurs on all streets in all conditions. That increase of occupancy, as it turns out, is down the length because of the way that we situated the tables down the west side of the patio. We've picked up a few seats, but picking up a few seats out in that patio, you still exit the patio the same way that you would, and there's no exiting being proposed at 4th Street to begin with. So, it's just a tough call that an outdoor patio absolutely increases the activity level in the area, makes it that much more friendly to be there and is exciting to be there. And whether or not someone decides to dart out from between a car, I don't understand how we can have an effect on that. Can the city post signs, don't dart out between cars on the lampposts that we have there? We could do everything that we can to improve the operation of the building, make it as safe as we can within the limits of what we have control over. And unfortunately, I don't know how we have control over that.
Mr. Chairman, that might have been a little bit of a rhetorical question, but with sincerity, is there is an issue there, in my opinion, and maybe the only thing you can do is to work in partnership with the city in some way to say, hey, together, if there's a problem that's happening in our purview, is there something the city can do to assist in curtailing that a little bit? Because I'm always worried that somebody's going to get clipped, some night walking out from
I could
between
appreciate
cars.
that. I truly can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Mr. Banda.
And it's a valid point, and I thought about that before. Number one, we're happy that if you would have been able to come out from the bar area right onto 4th, more likely you're going to walk straight to your car. But we did it with the, on purpose, with the historic bricks that we did on Main Street. We put those up against certain parking spaces, so it's hard. We strategically put them so the back door can open, but you can't, once you get out, you have to go around the fence. So the thought here would be, in between those few parking spots, we might want to put a pot there so you can't walk between the cars to get out. So if they'd be willing to keep flowers in it or something, that would be a barrier between, there's probably 4 spaces in front of there, I think. 3 or 4. So maybe we could actually make a barrier between where the cars are and still let you get your back door open. So I think Fitby's going to pull it.
The west side has the double sidewalk built.
Yeah, it's just the 4th Street. Let's take a look here.
And I just have to point out that
Yeah, so it's
as
3 cars. So maybe we block it so you could, 4 cars. So maybe there's a way we
Yeah,
can work
that's the kind of
together.
answer I was looking for. Usually I ask a question with some idea of
Yeah.
a solution. I didn't have one, but I wanted to throw it out there, and it sounds like maybe you
That's
guys
as
can
good an
talk.
idea
We can work
as any.
together.
And-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Chris has all the budget in the world, so it's really no problem. I could just keep
That sounds like
throwing
a city
things on
drawing.
his work list.
You'll get
You
10
know,
planters.
yeah. I
It
think we
sounds
could
like
come
a
up-
city expense to me.
I like that better.
No,
I'll let you guys work that out.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to see that addressed, whether it's through you guys or somehow
Right.
in another way.
The meters actually work sometimes. If they fall in the right spot, you can't get around that meter when there's 2 cars there, but okay, I got something.
Has anyone else experienced that or seen that, or is it just me, because I drive that way every single day?
Hey, you just live right
Right at the
there, yeah.
street.
right down
Yeah, I
that
don't drive it
street.
enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that.
On Main Street, people are more mindful, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that I'm going to open a door and I know there's cars. Here, you're less inclined to think that because, there's a car, it's
Right.
4th Street, but I think we could do something there.
Okay,
Thanks for indulging me there.
you're very welcome. Commissioners, any other questions? No? Okay, any other comments from the?
No.
Okay, so this is set for public hearing. Yep, so it's 7:29, so I will open the floor up for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to come up to the lectern and talk about this particular development? Anyone on the Zoom hearing?
I see no one.
Okay, at 7:30, I will close the public hearing on this particular development. And I think the next process is to take it up to city council for approval, is that correct?
Well,
No, commissioners, I'm sorry, we skipped a step here, okay? So, the commissioners, you have heard all the presentations, you've heard all the statements from the applicant and the city manager and the city planner. And at this time, any comment from the commissioners?
So I'll make a motion to approve the site plan approval and to send it on to city council.
Okay. Support.
Mr. Chairman, can I support that with a little bit of an amendment, just on a couple of the points that we made today, is that there will be a barrier-free element to the bar, and that, just of note, that the market type lights are of no approval element of this process.
Mr. Mayor, is that okay with
Okay,
you?
yep.
Okay, so support with your conditions has been part of the motion, so roll call?
Okay, Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gassam,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hauser,
Yes.
Secretary Sage,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
and Commissioner Kinsey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Best of luck to you. Okay.
So, Mr. City Manager, when does that come to the city council?
In the next meeting, so I think we'll have Mr. Crot draw up a quick little easement and get it to as fast as we can. So it won't be for site plan approval, it'll be for the condition to use the right of way with landscaping. So we can do, I don't think I can get it Monday, but we'll have it on by the 26th.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, item number 6A, the Dearborn Financial Credit Union, 511 North Main. Today's the set a public hearing for the October 3rd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bandit.
Vidya, we put Vidya in a weird spot on this one. So what happened at the last meeting, if you remember, Vidya had comments on the site plan, all easily doable. Credit union folks and the architect agreed, we can fix those, no problem. What we got hung up on was the elevation. And enough that we didn't even set the public hearing, we wanted to see if we could work it out. And I'll tell you, the next day, literally, Patrick and I met with the staff. We were going to take a field trip to go look at other things that we felt were comparable with downtown. Didn't have to. They came back. So I don't know if you had it in your back pocket or not, but it was a good rendering that it's in your packet tonight. So we didn't even have Vidya rewrite the whole report because it's really show the, to the commission tonight, show the elevation. If you agree with that, then we'll set the public hearing. And a couple of comments they had about parking lot striping and cleaning up the back, all done. And the signage is administratively approved. So if you would let the petitioner go over the new drawing, we would be in support of setting a public hearing for next month.
Perfect. Okay, so to that end, Mr. Banda, is there anyone from the applicant here who would like to come up to the lectern and talk about the modifications to the drawings that were submitted last time? Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, well, how are you?
Good, your name for the record, please.
Andrew Laschek, I'm an architect with Our Concepts Architects.
Okay, you've got the floor.
Yep, so we took your feedback from the last meeting and removed the metal paneling from the exterior. And we used canvas awnings at all of the windows and are proposing a decorative coping at the top of the building. Currently, there's a wooden decorative paneling above the storefront there that we would infill with a thin brick that matches the coursing of the adjacent brick to make it look more like a brick building, and then paint it all one color so it looks like a monolithic brick structure as opposed to a bunch of different pieces come together. And then we have our DFCU signage above the entry, and then those canvas awnings wrap around both sides.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I appreciate the fact that the Planning Commission and the petitioner, they explained the reason why they're looking for a new generation of people, something crisper. We both, Patrick and I both, looked at and thought it fits totally with, even down at the gateway. We didn't lose the whole building by covering it up. And we appreciate that. That's a big give from what they asked originally. So we felt that was still hip enough, if you will. It looks like it's something brand new, lots of light in it. The new windows on the south side will really change that building, which right now was on purpose made dark because it was for the karate studio, period. They never use that for anything else that I knew of. So we appreciate the compromise. I think they were okay with, it's a new look for them, but it still fits in with us. I talked to Fred
Toma
at the BP and explained it to him because he was kind of like, it's my building, isn't it? Yes, but let us work with your tenant. And he knew that they didn't buy the building. They're a tenant. So he was
lease,
great
right?
with this, right? 10-year lease, yep. So again, I think we're very happy with the compromise and hope that you are too.
I happened to walk by that over the weekend, and it looks like they're starting construction on the inside. So is that affiliated with this then? Is that,
Yeah, so what we made a deal was, because we were having a delay here of an extra 30 days, that we would give them a building permit, and they sign a letter saying, if this does not get approved, and we can't punch our windows in or do anything else, it's on them, not on us. So Randy can give a demo permit, and they can get it all ready to go, except for the exterior that the planning commission has control over.
okay. Commissioner King?
Well, I was probably the most vocal at the last meeting, so I just wanted to provide a couple of comments. I appreciate the willingness to go back and to rework on the design. I think this is much more fitting of the downtown of Rochester. I really like the cornice detail that was added. I think the colors are, very nice. You were able to work in the DFC colors, but also kind of maintain the character of the downtown. I also noticed the change a little bit in the sizing of the windows on the front and shifting the door over so it's centered. I think those were some nice architectural changes, so I just wanted to recognize that.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
So we would just be looking to set the public hearing
Sure.
for the next meeting.
From my own personal taste, I agree with you too. And I mean this in the nicest way possible, I don't think the prior rendering really incorporated a lot of what the commission was looking for. And you've done a fantastic job of going back and putting time in to hit the mark that we were kind of expecting. And this is just me, and I could be, you guys can give me heck for this later on, but are the awnings mandated? Is that something that has to be there? Because I'm curious to see what it would look like without them, or alternatively, more of like a cantilevered style, like a flat style versus the triangle type if you're looking at a side. Is it cost prohibitive? Yeah.
And we thought it was not desired. The canvas awnings were mentioned specifically.
Were they? Okay.
To make it match the surrounding area.
I'm just trying to think if I have like a little bit more of, in a sense of that style building, does that, but again, this is just my own personal taste, and which is why I'm not an architect. So I'm just talking out loud here, but no, I think you've done a very good job of getting it back to what we were all looking for here. So, Commissioner Sage.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Quick question. I personally like the awnings. Your decision not to put one on the north elevation.
There's a tree there right now, so.
I thought we were clearing all that out, or,
Well, I think there might be an update on that. Doc might have not been as willing as he was before I heard, and that awning would cantilever on his property. It's right on the property line.
Okay.
That's the bigger issue, to be honest with you, and they don't want to have to deal with that.
Okay. Called an audible, huh?
I think nobody
Exactly.
would walk by it either, right, because of the landscape there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could see the other side you are walking along
Right,
from the
and
parking.
we will work with the doctor to make sure his landscape is maintained. It has been trimmed in a couple of years, but I did see guys out there literally in the last week, and they're starting to put some mulch down and trim them up a little bit. They had offered to redo the whole thing, so.
Okay. Okay, any other comments from Commissioner Kenseth?
I've got a question regarding the awnings. Any information regarding its fade resistance? And the reason I ask is there's a building maybe a couple blocks farther north on Rochester that has awnings itself, and unfortunately, they've faded quite a bit and kind of looking like an eyesore.
Yeah, we would certainly spec something that is UV resistant, and we'd work with the awning manufacturer to make sure that the fabric is resistant to fading.
And if I may, sorry to jump in here a lot. So that was true up and down Main Street, and especially if you can picture the Framers Workshop in Lou the Shoe, it was like a battle to get the owner, not the tenants, to redo that, because back then, they went bad within 8 months. And between Royal Oak awning, all the new fabric, if you look at the bank on the corner, it's changed so many times, the Crispin building, those were up there for 5 years, and you couldn't even tell they weren't brand new. So the new yeah, there you go. And that's the new ones, the chemical bank. So all those go through Randy, and we look at stuff like that, because you're right, some of them, the ones down the street have been there for 8 years, and they're fine. But Greens, look at Greens, they were not just tearing, but they were just so faded, they didn't have the money to fix them. But when you get new ones, you can spec the proper awning materials now to make sure that is fade resistant. So that's a good point, and we're very cognizant of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vidya, for that.
Okay, so absent any further questions or comments from the commission, I guess someone wants to make a motion to set this for public hearing for the October 3rd, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
So moved.
okay, so. Support, okay. Roll call, please.
Who supported that?
Sage.
Mr. Sage.
I did.
I
Councilman.
think you did, didn't you?
It was Gasson.
Oh, it was again, I'm
And
sorry, yeah,
Mayor.
yeah. The entire commission supported.
A lot of support. Okay, Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Gasson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenzik,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Mayor Bixson,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman Hauser.
Yes.
I'll also say yes.
And Mr. Sage as well.
Oh, I
Commissioner Sage.
apologize. I had you as support still. So. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. 6B, this is discussion and to set a public hearing for section 2102 accessory buildings. No accessory building shall be designed, built, or modified so as to create a separate independent housekeeping establishment for occupancy containing independent cooking, bathroom, and sleeping facilities, nor shall such building be utilized as habitable or tenantable living unit.
I'm going to take that
Mr.
one.
Banda.
Thank you. So this should have just said we're asking to change the dimension of a garage from 12 to 13 feet. Not should have said, but it became deeper than that. So at my zoning board meetings, whenever something comes up more than 2 times, usually 3, 4th triggers the ZBA saying something's wrong with your ordinance. If the same exact thing is being asked for, and we find a reason in our backup conditions and approval conditions that we approve something. For instance, your zoning ordinance for signs on big buildings, it says 100 square feet. Doesn't matter if it's Rewalt's headquarters or the Royal Park or the cleaners, you get 100 square feet. You can have one sign. So many times we've gone back to them saying, they're on corners, there's a bunch of different circumstances that change the ordinance, and we do. We go through the planning commission, then back to city council. So in this case, this is a little bit, existing staff can't take the blame for this, but there's a little bit of wonkiness, I'm gonna call it, that has taken place over the years. So, gentleman on 4th Street came in and he's rebuilding a home. So he didn't demolish the home, he increased the home. He wasn't even at 30% lot coverage. He could have built an attached garage, carriage style, in the back and been fine with a 2-car attached garage. He would have had no backyard, and he has children, grandchildren, actually. So, the existing garage was non-conforming because it was only 18 inches off the side yard, supposed to be 5. It was 5 off the rear, which was conforming. He said, and it was a 1-car garage. So he said, if I could, I'd be willing to go to my neighbors, which he did, and leave the garage deficient on the side yard and come into my own yard, widen it for a 2-car garage. Keep it 5 feet off, etc. And so he was expanding in nonconformity, so we had to go to the zoning board. So that was number 1. Then he said, I am a fly tyer, which he knows I could relate to that. That's for fly fishing. And his wife won't let him smoke a cigar in the house while he's tying flies. And he saw a guy on Wesley Street that I actually looked at his house when we bought our house on Castell, who had a fly tying room above a garage with a big fan in it for smoking cigars when they tie flies. It must be what people do. I don't happen to do that. So anyway, he saw that and thought, hey, why can't I have that? Well, to get to that, you need 13 feet of pitch, so he could have the garage, clear space, even with a it's not a square garage, but with the pitch, to get headroom, and this guy happens to be about 6'4", he came in and said, so I'm gonna ask for a height waiver of 1 foot of the garage. And he took pictures, and he sent Patrick addresses. Patrick went and verified them, and sure enough, we found, 10 garages that were 13 feet tall. Went to the zoning board, and the ordinance says, no accessory building shall be larger than 12 feet tall, measured to the midpoint of the roof, whether it's a gambrel, a gable, whatever. If it's flat, it's to the parapet. So he made his case, and I have a tough ZBA, and they said, you're expanding this garage, so you're self-creating a hardship. And I don't know why there are these 13-foot garages all over, but we can't support that. So inches maybe, and engineering wise, there's some grade differences in the backyard. Try to get it lower. So they tabled them. They approved the side yard waiver. You can build that garage. Can't go tall. So he came back and he reduced it. Architects gave, I think, David, you even gave us some ideas at that meeting. Was that you? Yep. How to make bigger trusses. You could drop the roof a little bit, and he could only get it to 12 feet, 10 inches. So he needed 10-inch waiver. Went back last month, and they said, we get it, but we want to know, Nick, why did this happen? So why this happened was back to Ed Allward, who was the building official before Sid Brown. So we're going back decades. I literally needed a flashback moment. This is what happens when you're here long enough. I remember a person sitting in my office arguing about why can't I have a mother-in-law unit above my garage? I want to put a bathroom, a bedroom, and a stairway, and they weren't asking for taller. They just wanted it to be able to get up there and drop the ceiling of the garage because they had a Volkswagen. I literally remember this. And Sid was walking by the hallway, and he heard me say, so we can't support that because you're going to have to get it to 12 feet. Sid stopped and he said, hey, why are you telling this young lady that you can only have 12 feet? I said, because Sid, that's what the ordinance says. It says 13. I said, no, it's 12. And his face got red, and he left, came back, and we sat down. I said, Sid, it says 12, right? Yeah. And he pulls out a memo from Allward with 13 feet in it. It's like, so our building officials were approving 13-foot ceilings, not always, not everybody wanted that, but if they wanted it, they got 13 feet. So then told the commission that. They asked us to research it, went back and checked multitude of towns, and in fact, 13 to 14 is reasonable. A lot will allow that secondary unit to be a mother-in-law's unit, they call them, or in-law's unit. So we sat down with Jeff Crott, Pat and I sat down and we hacked through this, and what we came as a compromise is we do not have a problem with this 13 feet because it's discernible once you flatten that roof out, even if you don't. So we're okay with that, but we're not okay with, unless the Planning Commission and City Council does a philosophical change, and we are going to allow secondary units above garages. And here's why we're running away from that. It's called Airbnb. Verbo, someone's going to start renting those out on a daily basis over a garage so they can come and watch the lights. So our compromise was no bathroom. That's why all the verbiage here. No bathroom, no separate living quarters. Go ahead and give them the 13 feet. And you can do what you want up there, but you can't live up there and you can't rent it out. So Jeff had us write deeper language, and that's what we're asking to set a public hearing on in October, because the zoning board said if in fact the Planning Commission sees fit to send this for public hearing with some discussion, knowing that it can't be habitable, they would be comfortable on listening to his waiver and base it on if the Planning Commission approves this change to the ordinance, they would give it to him. Turns out he won't even be building that part of the garage until this would be done. So it takes 2 meetings here, and then City Council would have to adopt it, then in the paper, and then 10 days later. So by the end of the year, he could get a building permit to do a 13-foot garage.
Do you have an estimate as to how many residential structures, these, accessory buildings are?
More than 20.
More than 20? Okay.
How many are habitable?
Zero.
Right. But
That's the good news. Nobody ever allowed that. It was just for.
Right.
You couldn't, nobody, you could.
We don't have an ordinance currently that says it.
That's correct. So you can, but you can't have a bathroom or a cooking facility separate than the original. You can only have one cooking and bathrooms facility per dwelling.
Right.
So, and that's not a dwelling, it's a accessory building.
Right.
So, but we kind of looked into that, but now we want to definitively say you can't do that even though it's tall enough to sleep up there.
So that the White House over on, I think it's 4th Street, and it's the arbor, you know what I'm talking about?
I do. So that's their boathouse. They store their equipment up there for their pool.
Okay. Gotcha.
And he has an orchard on the top of that roof.
Right. Okay. So that's no one lives up there. Okay. All right. Commissioner King.
So reading this, and I just want to pose a question to the Planning Commission for potential modification. So COVID happened, right? People are working from home. Having an office and a garage would be a huge benefit, I think, for a lot of people. But if you have an office, you need a half bath, not a shower, not a tub. But would that be something that we would consider, is allowing, an office space with a half bath?
So I'll just, if you're asking my opinion, for us, for our staff, we would not support that because that will be unenforceable for us to say somebody, you can sleep in your fly tying room, that's okay. But you make it so it's not habitable by definition, bathroom, cooking facility. So, now here's the funny part. You literally, today, could put a bathroom on the first floor of your garage if you're willing to give up the space. So you can't do it upstairs, but you could do it downstairs, a full bath, shower and everything.
Right.
The ordinance doesn't say you can't, because you don't sleep where the cars are, unless you have a bad night, so. Sorry.
Yeah.
Unless you're at the bar.
Climbing over the.
Exactly, yeah.
The arborvitae's to get a cocktail. I didn't realize that was such a big
So
problem.
I will tell you, I know in my own block, and my next door neighbor, he's a fiddler, and he wants to build over his new garage, an old garage that he's gonna renovate, a room to go fiddle up there that he's gonna soundproof. So we're okay with that. Fly tying, fiddler, play cards up there, that's fine, but just the bathroom makes it, we're worried about enforcing this. And with the state, now the House has passed a bill taking away total municipal control over Airbnbs and Verbos. The Senate's like, they're getting smoked by the hotel industry saying, they're not paying hotel tax. That's going to take away, you're making hotels in every residential neighborhood. Municipal league's all fighting and saying you're taking away home rule control because it's bad enough we have so many rentals in town. Now you're going to rent them by the day, and we don't allow that. You have to change, every time you change a tenant, you have to re-register as a rental. And so nobody does it on a daily basis. If we catch them, we tell them you can't do it. You can sign up for a rental home, but you can't do it by the day.
So, again, I don't want to go off track here. Is Airbnb permissible in the city of Rochester?
No, technically no.
Okay.
You can have a rental, but you can't do it. The way definitions of Airbnb, and they've changed now, it was you go in for a day or maybe a week, but it's not very clear, and that's why the state's trying to say cities stay out of it because you're all over the place. Some have daily, some have weekly, some have monthly. We don't tell apartment buildings how many days minimally you have to rent your apartments for. It's just a practice that there's no less than 6 months, so
Okay.
it's touchy.
Further questions? No? Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Lord?
Well, I would just say, I kind of agree with Nick. I would not complicate it, I guess, by adding to this language to allow a bathroom. I guess if I had an office upstairs, I'd just enjoy the extra steps I would get to walk to the house if I'm working up there. But that's just my 2 cents. But I guess regarding the 13 feet, I'd rely on your recommendation there. I'm not an architect. I don't know if 13 is the right number. I don't know if it's 14.
Yeah, so we've never had anybody ask for more than 13, and that seems to be the industry standard right now. I think Birmingham might allow 14 with certain circumstances, but, and again, those are way bigger houses.
What does that get you in terms of, I guess,
About
like
7 feet clear
clearance?
space, like 6'10", I think, David, we figured out, 6'10". So that's pretty, and again, they're mostly
Upstairs.
upstairs. They're more like this, so it's not a pure 6'10", but.
Almost like a bungalow style.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Sage, please.
Chairman Hauser. So are we looking for clarification from the state?
Oh.
So here's my question. So we're going to actually put it in the ordinance. We might be just taking it right back out of the ordinance, the habitability portion.
No, so the state's just working about the function of Airbnb, that you can't tell a private property owner they can't rent by the day. That's what they're trying to do. That, it's that general. It's not to do with physical size, or they're just saying you can't stop them from renting every day.
But if we stop them from having a living space outside the
And
home?
we're okay with that.
Kind of cuts them off at the knees.
Yeah, it would be very difficult. You could rent to somebody with no bathroom, I suppose.
That's called a youth hostel. Yes.
Or rent to them in your main home, just not
Right,
in the
and say you come in
accessory.
to use the bathroom.
I just need to do some more research on
Yeah,
this, because I don't see a hindrance here in having a habitable space.
And again, it is a philosophical thing that many, as people are aging in place and you want your mother-in-law or your in-laws living on your property, that's fine. But let's say that is a capable person of driving. Now you're going to be short parking. And now the parking gets parked on the street. It's not a catch-all. I don't disagree that, and about 5 years ago, and Patrick did this probably a lot in other communities, people are heavily leaning towards that. Encourage keeping your family right by you, and then with COVID, even more. But we just never could get over the hump of it's gonna, with these, it's gonna turn into a hostel, or it's gonna turn into a verbo, or whatever all these things are now. And that's not the presumed residential character of the neighborhood. We're struggling with our neighbors. I have 5 rentals on my street alone. I guarantee you, and you don't even have to profile people anymore. Drive down my street, you'll pick off 5 of them out. And that's too bad. And we're not, they're perpetuating this story about renters don't care. Well, go look in Rochester. We have 384 rental single-family homes that people buy, charge up to $5,000 a month. You can pay off that house in 3 years debt, and you own it, and somebody else is paying for it, and you don't put a flower in it. You don't hire a landscape company to cut the grass, and it's very frustrating to staff. That's all the ones that end up in court on blight are rentals, every single one of them. So that's too bad. Sorry,
Okay.
lecture there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the master plan, because the master plan, remember they were saying cities like Ann Arbor and stuff were doing it, and we said we didn't want to do that.
That's right.
We kind of did that. So, I mean, I think that's one thing that group was trying to push, and we kind of pushed back, saying that's not really what we wanted. Second thing is, I was here when Ed Alward was here, and I would say was old Rochester, maybe. Things just happen, and the last comment I will say is, guy went to a lot of trouble for a cigar, isn't it? Gosh.
He's pretty passionate about it. His wife's sitting right there saying, smoking in the house.
So, okay.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Just to chime in on a
Commissioner
couple of
Gasson,
things. Commissioner King's comment about a bathroom is a half bathroom or something, and I see people using their garage for a lot of different things. One, the garage, or an area to do planting, potting, and that sort of stuff, where water is an important part of that process. And I even see TVs and stuff out in there, TVs, like a hangout place. I wouldn't be objecting to a bathroom scenario in a garage building, but just as long as I think we could define, hey, you can't live there. And I can see a scenario from a safety standpoint, a 911 call. I'm at 403 Wilcox. They show up. Well, where is he? Oh, he's in the garage. He's not in this house. That would be a problem. I think it could be a problem. But then you'd have a second address, 403A. That's an example of living there being a problem, I think. But using it as a second place to do stuff, having a bathroom is probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
think-
Nick, you said you could do that on the ground floor.
Yep.
And I guess that policing aspect of it, how far does someone kind of just inch along to something else before you know it? They don't even know they changed the use of it, but, over complicating it maybe is something I'd steer clear of. And you can't live there, but you can do stuff like a bathroom.
So on the first floor, could you put in a full bath? Could you put in a shower and a toilet? And
Yeah, but you'd lose the space, though.
Yeah.
Right, understood.
But
In
if you
my,
intend to
in my
rent it-
place up north, I have a sink in the kitchen for gardening, and, in the garage, and my kids are like, that was brilliant, somebody put that in there, because it is very useful. I understand, and you could do it on the first floor, so if you're willing to give up the space, it's just, you're probably not gonna rent that out knowing you have to do that. That you have to come downstairs into the garage where the owners of the property's car is, probably. So it's just,
Do we want to tackle that now, or is that?
yeah, I thought,
Table that
let's
for a
take, these
later
are
date.
kind of baby steps, let's get us to
Yeah.
12, 13, and
Should we be
clarify saying
eliminating
you
a
can't.
full bath option on the first floor of the
They-
garage?
They could do that.
No, but should we be, if we're amending this, should we be addressing that?
It's a right by use now. Building code says you can do it if you have sanitary hookup and water, you can do it. So, I don't think we want to say you can't do that, because you always have been able to. Then we would be taking away something, if that's what you're talking about. So we thought we'd just stay clear of that for right now.
I didn't know if we should eliminate the shower bath component of it.
Even on the first floor? It's, I don't know anybody has one in town, but you could, in theory, do it.
Although I guess that there's a few people that have pools that maybe have,
They do showers outside.
I could see that be the one use.
There's also a lot of professions now, you have to do decontamination before you return to work or return to home. Medical fields, hazardous material workers, they go to the garage, they clean off before they go into their house. I would see that as a taking in some way.
All right, well, is there any, a motion for putting this up to public hearing consistent with what we discussed? And
So moved.
okay, Mr. Mayor, any support?
Support.
Commissioner Sage, okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Mayor Bixson.
Yes.
Secretary Sage.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hauser.
Yes.
Commissioner Gasson.
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
And Commissioner Kenzik.
Yes.
And again, on
If
the
I may,
third.
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you, at a public hearing, we'll make sure we put some good wording in here so people know what we're really doing. And maybe we'll get the public, and maybe we'll get some comments from people that feel strongly either way about what you brought up, Commissioner King, or how we're a little bit worried about it becoming a Airbnb, so.
That's the whole purpose of the public comment, so.
Exactly.
Take the temperature of the people. Okay, wonderful. Okay, moving on, number 7, miscellaneous. Oh, Mr.
So
Bandy.
we do under miscellaneous. So, earlier we talked about the special exception ask for parking for the bar.
They're buying 3 spots.
Right, but there's a process. So we skipped one process. We just had a little it was a little bad week with no power at City Hall and stuff. So Rose, we did our best to get this agenda out. Patrick already put in the paper a notification for a month from now for asking for pay in lieu of 3 spaces for the corner bar. We just didn't put it in your agenda. So if you would take that under miscellaneous to set a public hearing for the request of the corner bar to pay in lieu 3 spaces, set a public hearing for the October meeting, we would appreciate that.
Sure. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, support. There you go.
Who seconded that?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner King.
Yes.
Mayor Bixson.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hauser.
Yes.
Secretary Sage.
Yes.
Commissioner Gasson.
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenzik.
Yes.
Okay. Number 8, public comment. Anyone here who would like to come up to the lectern and comment on any issues that have not necessarily been discussed previously?
Actually, I might have one item under miscellaneous as well.
Oh, please, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I apologize if this has already been decided, but there is an item in the minutes from last meeting that it's not clear whether a decision was made. It was regarding sidewalks on the south side of Parkdale in front of Pfizer and Par Pharmaceutical. And the concern that I have in this case is that it appears as if permission or a waiver has been given to those companies to use the north side, and the problem is that's private property. It's not a public sidewalk. From Stony Point Boulevard going east all the way to Parkdale is all private sidewalk that is owned by 3 different associations. And the concern there is that it's the association, whether it's Stony Creek Ridge or the condos or the new subdivision with those 5 or 6 homes, they're the ones that have to maintain the sidewalks, replace broken concrete, plow snow, de-ice, and so on. And here, we're basically telling a private or a public company that it's okay to use private property. And I don't know if, that would change the decision that was made last week or even have an impact on it, because, it's been there for 25 years now, and what really is changing.
So that's the first I'd heard of that, number one. I don't think it would have changed because there's a sidewalk on the south side, can't get to anything. So it wasn't a condition of you have to use that. There is a sidewalk that the public uses. Everybody uses that, which I did not know that's a private sidewalk. And I don't think Vidya did either. But it's
No.
used as a public sidewalk.
If I may just add, Nick, any sidewalk that is proposed along a public right-of-way, even if it's located on private property, there has to be an easement available for the public to use it. This is not unusual in many municipalities. There are sometimes properties where you cannot locate the sidewalk within the public right of way, maybe there's a drainage course or something, but in that case, the private property owner has to grant an easement for the public to use the sidewalk. So it might be recorded with Oakland County Registrar of Deeds. I think that is something we need to look. This is the first time I'm hearing of it too. So we definitely need to look into it. At the time that sidewalk was constructed, if an easement was also recorded for it.
Yeah, and Richard, maybe you could help us with that, because we've done that before, and we make them give us an easement on private property so that it can be used for the public. So I would guess that's the case. I don't know that for a fact, but we can look it up.
According to the plat map, it's a private easement.
For public use.
It doesn't say for
Yeah, I don't know.
public use.
We'll look into it. It's a good point.
Okay.
That's the first I heard of that one, so.
Yeah.
But it didn't fulfill the requirement for a sidewalk. It just was noted that because that goes nowhere into the Heron Rookery, you could never cross Parkdale safely. So if people needed to get east and west, they would use the sidewalk on the other side of the street. So, but that's very interesting.
Just as a point of reference, over the last 10 years, for the portion between, well, put it this way, our association has spent $35,000 on concrete replacement. We have pending bills over the next 2 or 3 years of probably $40,000 because of damage that's been done by the utility companies. And we've spent $165,000 on snow and ice removal.
So I appreciate that, but I would tell you that any resident in Rochester that lives on a public sidewalk has to pay for it when it's broken, unless it's a city tree or a sewer lead. So in front of my house, if it's broke, it's not my sidewalk, I have to plow it, I have to salt it, or I get a ticket, and I have to replace it when it's broken. So no different than what you guys are doing.
Not true. You pay half, the exception of the sewers and the trees.
Or on a corner, you pay more, or the other way around, so.
If the concrete heaved for no reason, well, if it heaved, but it wasn't caused by a tree,
Then you're 50%.
yep,
So, and you guys don't get that same credit.
nope, we pay 100.
Okay, no, that's, okay. That's something I didn't know either.
All right.
We'll research that definitely to find out what it is. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Okay. Number 9, upcoming agenda items. Line item number 9A, St. John's Lutheran School, 1011 West University Road, addition to school.
Yes, St. John's has turned in a revised plan, and that'll be going out in the mail tomorrow for review. Do you want me to just run through these, Mr. Chairman?
Please, I think so.
Michael Blake Realty, he did turn a revised plan in. It was reviewed. He had many issues, and he's yet to respond to the newest review. So, assuming he addresses those issues, we'll see him fairly soon. Crook Cards, we're in litigation with at this point in time because of the outdoor storage issue over there. And they have also turned in a newer plan that was just reviewed, and it still has many deficiencies. 1100 North Main Street, Downtown Inn, FKA, the Spartan Inn. Haven't heard from them since they came in with their preliminary plan, so I'll touch base with them in the next couple of weeks and see if they plan on coming back or not.
Mr. Banda?
I can add one more. I saw Cody back here. Sorry, Cody, I had my back to you. We talked about Solaronics last time, right? So we had a 2.5-hour meeting with their team, their engineers, their traffic engineers, their landscape architects, everybody, their legal team, everybody, for 2.5 hours. And there's 2 ways to do it. They were cognizant of the fact that the Planning Commission had said, don't come back and just talk on, not you folks, but Solaronics. We've seen enough. So if you're serious, come in. It's a significant ask to submit the full package. You talk hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of drawings. So we said, because you're so thorough and they've drone shots and went to the Trail Commission, they've done their homework wickedly to prepare to even come talk to you about it. And they heard that the residents already had they were aware of it, and there were some questions about traffic and all this stuff. They said, you know what, with all due respect to Plan Commission, we're going for it. We're gonna come in, full packet, video. They'll bet money that Vidya's gonna have virtually no comments because they've had this thing reviewed hard. So they will be here for your October meeting, which I think is great. They're all in. They're ready to, meet with the residents. We gave them every possible thing we can think of that the residents might have, an objection to this industrial plant, former plant, being used as 107 apartments versus 12 homes, the city buying it for a park. We gave them every scenario that we could to make sure they have good answers for the residents, because the residents are very vested and organized on Ludlow, and they're not afraid to answer any questions or entertain anything they need. And they're not in this for give me an answer tonight. If there's things that the Plan Commission and the residents are struggling with that they can't get through, they're willing to put in the time to do it. So very professional, and they're going to come in and give you a good presentation. I don't know what we're going to recommend even, but I know you will get all the facts down to the sustainability report. I mean, they're going all in to be ready.
Good.
So,
Commissioner King, I'm sorry, what you're saying.
Is it going to be a special project or have any sort of
it'll be a
zoning
special
change
project.
requirements or?
So they came in and said, we could rezone it to RM1, but that's going to take how long? And you don't even know, your ordinance said RM, it wasn't very clear in your master plan. So they said, we'll rezone it if you want. But what they designed it to was exactly RM1 with no waivers needed if it was zoned RM1. So we could say, go ahead and rezone it, and then it's almost by right. So there's a RM1 plus, it's called, where you're above 3 stories. You have to have deeper setbacks. So they designed it for 4 stories, if I remember right, with the bigger setbacks. And the trail, respected the trail, wanting their easement back and all that good stuff. So we could say, just to make it cleaner, and then it kind of takes away the objection. If it's RM1 zone and you designed it to RM1, you get yourself a site plan. They'll do whatever I think you want, so.
Under that scenario, the commission loses a little bit of leverage.
Thank you. So they are willing to, under a special project, they have to give something back to the community. That also makes sense for them. And there happens to be a trail crossing there that needs a lot of stuff to it. And they're like, that could be our give back to the community. And if we zone it straight up, they don't have to do that. We don't use special projects to extort anybody.
No.
They would do something that would make their project better, safer for everybody coming out of their project. They have to worry about that curve, how you get the driveway out. So it will be a robust discussion, but it won't be, you won't get somebody saying, I didn't think of that. I guarantee you, there's no way. We just hammered this thing to make sure they know exactly what they're up against, so. Again, we didn't say we like it, don't like it, too many units, not enough units. We didn't say any of that. We just said, this is the concerns of the neighborhood. They've been, all along, they've been consistent. Anybody coming in here, we're worried about traffic, we're worried about cut-through. How are you gonna make a left out on University without a light? We even talked about, why is there a light at Wilcox anymore? If the school board's not gonna use that building, that's a useless light. Move the light to Ludlow, widen it so you can get a left turn lane there. And it would work for a lot of people, so deep discussion.
I guess I have one
No,
other.
go ahead.
Sorry.
And we can address this with them, but the trucks coming to Dillman and Upton, they use that all the time.
And they even said.
Can they get in and out?
They said despite the fact that my tenants would have to look at those Dillman and Upton trusses every day, we're still willing to put in tens of millions of dollars. So they kind of flipped it on us. And it's like, agree. It's like history to have all that there, but it's not good. It's been like that for 40 years probably or more.
Commissioner Gasson, have you got a question?
Just a quick question. I'm sure we'll find out next month, but is it a renovation addition or is it tear down?
It's a tear down and rebuild.
Is it local developer or out
It
of
is.
state?
So it's a team of Rewald. He's a partner, but not the lead. And the gentleman that we're going to build 120 South Main, the condos, but they were trying to do it within the ordinance and they couldn't make a deal with the cleaner. So they're from Birmingham. It's their money. They partner with Frank because they want a style of building. They called it Western. So they went and looked at the house. We sent them to Albertson and said, look at that house. It looks like Colorado, but Upper Michigan, Traverse City, Torch Lake kind of home. Could you get some wood in there and make it look more traditional? Because you're on the trail. There's no homes around there. You don't want to build a Mills-looking building there. You want something that's way more earthy. And they went to the Trail Commission, talked about that, like the cider mill. That look up on Orion Road, something that fits into what it used to be around here. There's a beet farm, right? A beet plant or something in that area. Yeah, so you'll see. It's still 107 units, no matter what, and it's large, but it's tucked in the woods, so we'll see. It'll be an interesting discussion.
Any other comments from the commissioners? No?
I would just say, buckle up.
Yeah. I think for me, and I think I mentioned this last time, the biggest issue is how do you navigate the crossing of that trail? I mean, you have to have your head on a swivel now, and then, when you add in all the other cars, et cetera. So to me, that's, I don't want to telegraph what they ought to come back and say, but for my interest at least, it's absolutely, how do you deal with and navigate that particular area?
We did talk to him about, so the argument for all the developers has been, there can be a 3-shift plant going on there with 180 people per shift coming out at the same time. You'll never cross that trail crossing. So that's not, we don't care about that. We care about how is it safe for your people coming out anytime during the night or day and not hitting somebody. So we already know what part of the answer is. We already are taking steps to not wait for this development. We're going to put the electronic flashing things up and lighted crosswalks. We're going to do to make it safe now. Forget if anybody ever goes in there. Just the trucks that pull in to back into Dillman, that's scary if you're trying to walk that trail. Lucky for us, I go by there 15 times a day. It's literally the most polite. 95% of the people on that road are polite enough to stop no matter what. They come around the corner looking for somebody. Now, I just conversely go down to Second and the trailhead on Letica. You're going to die trying to cross that because people are mean. They will never, ever. There's a yellow sign and a crosswalk. We're going to repaint it in the next week, but no respect down there.
They're
And I
almost
don't know
looking
why.
to hit people. Yes,
Yeah, that's
I'm serious,
horrible.
yeah. It's,
We wish we didn't even have that. And even at the public parking lot to go across the old Rah-Rah building, people are mean. They will not stop there. I don't know why. They have to rush up to the light at Main Street. That's already yellow and backed up 8 spaces, so.
okay.
Yeah.
I've got one final thing, and I don't mean to keep anyone here longer, and I should have said this under miscellaneous, and I think, Mr. Banner, you had said something about cleaning up Atala's property over there. Been walking around a lot, and the building next to Recipe, where the Recipe building is, does he have any responsibility or obligation as part of his development to finish up the landscaping and the mulch and the weeds? It's really gotten bad, particularly the spot right across from the new, by the police station here. I mean, it's, again, it doesn't have to look like Augusta National, but it's getting really bad.
So I will say that Doc had a group that once a year, we would give them a call and say, the weeds are 18 inches tall, you haven't mulched, you haven't done anything. And it would get done immediately. Those 3 gentlemen that I've made that call probably for a decade, I don't know what happened to them, if they're gone. So I saw some new guys out there pulling weeds, but they didn't put anything else down. He's trying to rent new apartments. Number one, the Plan Commission said he's not getting a C of O for those units until the landscaping's done. So he did the part in front where the entranceway was. That was to get the upper. Now to get the rest of them, he's got to continue. I don't know what happened to him. He used to be pretty mindful of mulching and putting flowers down, seasonal flowers. He didn't even turn the irrigation on this year. I don't know what's going on, but our code folks have met with him, and that's kind of how we found out that he doesn't want them touching the credit union, touching the trees. It's my responsibility. I'll take care of it. But he hasn't yet. So we turn up the politeness whenever we can. But duly noted.
I understand.
Even the brackets for the sign on the old building, he took the sign down because we told him to, but he didn't take the brackets down.
Okay,
We're mindful.
I'll end it on that. Okay, any other comments or statements by the commissioners? Nope. Okay,
I don't remember the number of it. The project on Main Street, I was just going to point out, the 5 townhouse units.
by
Did you
Ferndale
see in the
over there?
wind?
I can give you an update on that.
Yeah, are both destroyed or is it
Yeah,
just the one?
so what happened was, block wall, finished, ready to start hanging cabinets on the inside and drywall. And then second wall, 4 contractors got fired after 3 days of getting that block wall up. Greg's very fussnickety, the owner. And literally the block company would get up 5 courses. He's like, what are you doing? Stopping them. They weren't putting the rebar in right, et cetera. So he stopped them first floor, and to stabilize it, put the other wall, if you can remember, in between
connected
there's
it.
5 feet. That's not a block wall. So it's not block, 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 block. It's block, 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 18 inches apart, wood, because there's a big separation. That wood wall got put up, and the wind got through there and took the northerly wall, the southerly unit, blew it over, because it was only held by wood this way, and that knocked down the wall of the finished one that took the whole thing down. So he might have to start over. It's like $1 million in damage, and he hasn't even got going. He had a bad day. So the insurance company's working with him right now to hurry it up. So they shored it up so it won't fall down anymore, but that whole wall is inside his basement. It's horrible.
That's on the second one. Is the first one?
That wall's gone. It took 2 solid
right
block
through it
walls.
now.
You can see through it. There was a wall. It was done. It was ready to be drywall on the inside. It's gone. It was flabbergasting how the one tipped over and knocked the whole other wall down. It was already tied in with trusses. I don't even understand how that happened. And then his tree, at his own personal house the same night, a tree crushed his house. So he had a bad day.
Wow.
All right.
He had a really bad day.
I won't complain about our
All
power
right.
outage.
All right, well, listen, thank you, everyone, and absent anything further, it's adjourned.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we were
Did anyone hear from Dennis?
on
by the way?
Greg's. We had
No?